Namaskaram.
Hello everyone, I am Advocate Akanksha Verma.
And I am Advocate Ekta Verma. And we are
Trial
lawyers. We are sure you don't want to be a victim of faulty documentation. So keep watching the video, subscribe now. Ignorance of law is not an excuse, but what we come across every day is nothing but ignorance of law. People come to us with their cases, we go through their documents, and our most common finding is that they are victims of faulty documentation and are now facing legal consequences thereof.
So true. One such document is affidavit, which is also known as Pratigya Patra, Shapat Patra or Halafnama. There are two broad categories of affidavit, judicial and non-judicial. Non-judicial affidavits are required for obtaining public utilities such as municipal services, registration of birth, death, marriages, name change, etc. Whereas judicial affidavits are used in judicial proceedings, generally in support of pleadings, applications, etc., or for use as evidence as per law or order of the court.
And everyone needs to make an affidavit at some point of time in their life. And we want you to make it rightly.
So be attentive while we discuss the law on affidavits. Firstly, what is an affidavit?
Affidavit is basically a statement made by any person who is allowed by law to affirm or declare. This statement must be made voluntarily and in writing. It should be made on oath or affirmation, and such oath or affirmation must be before an authorized officer. The person who makes and signs the affidavit is called an affiant or a deponent. Now that we have discussed what an affidavit is, let's understand what a statement is. Akanksha, can you please explain what a statement is?
Sure. Statements are set of facts that are based upon your personal knowledge, belief, or information from other source. Any person can make any statement, but most of the institutions ask for an affidavit.
Why?
So that they can believe your statements, make you liable, and avoid risk upon themselves.
The speciality of an affidavit is that it is a statement made on oath or on affirmation. We shall also cover a different category called declarations. So, what is an oath or affirmation? When you take an oath, you basically swear in the name of God that whatever statements you have made in an affidavit are true and correct, and that you have concealed nothing therefrom. It includes an affirmation. But what do you do if you are an atheist and you do not want to swear in the name of God? Then you make an affirmation, which is basically an undertaking based on your conscience that whatever you have stated in your affidavit is true and correct. Declarations are an alternatives to affidavit. They place an element of trust on the person making the declarations. There are certain states and institutions that allow self-declarations instead of affidavits. What this does basically is it saves the time, money and resources of the public as well as the institutions.
Who can make and sign an affidavit, and who is allowed by law to affirm or declare? Any person who has completed his 18 years of age and also he is of sound mind. Minor can make affidavit only through a parent or guardian, as oath or affirmation cannot be administered to a minor. Thirdly, a person of unsound mind can make an affidavit through his next friend or guardian. Illiterates, blind, deaf and dumb person can also make affidavits only if they satisfy the above criteria. Companies, firms or other institutions can make affidavits through the duly authorized agents. Lastly, affidavits can be made singly or jointly. However, in case of joint affidavits, the draft has to be modified so that the affiants verify and affirm jointly and severally.
So, what are your duties as an affiant or deponent? Firstly, read very carefully and understand the contents of your affidavit before signing it or verifying it. If you cannot read or understand, seek help from a lawyer, an attesting officer, or other friend who you can trust. When you verify an affidavit, you basically confirm that the statements made therein are true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief. Please understand that you are duty bound by law to state the truth as per the Oaths Act. So, if you make any false statements and they are found to be false, you may be held liable. Lastly, get your affidavit attested, affirmed from an authorized officer like a notary public, an oaths commissioner, or any other authorized person.
Now, steps for making an affidavit. In case of non-judicial affidavit, you need a non-judicial stamp paper or an ordinary paper as prescribed by law. Also, refer government notifications from time to time to get accurate requirement. Always purchase a non-judicial stamp paper in your name from a licensed stamp vendor. Thereafter, take a receipt and affix to your affidavit or keep it safely. Please note, do not purchase antedated stamp papers or stamp papers which are not in your name. Judicial affidavits can be made on A4 or ledger paper as per the rules made by the concerned court.
In case you have purchased a non-judicial stamp paper, you have paid a stamp duty. Stamp duty for different states are subject to change as per the state policies from year to year. Please check the official publications before making a decision or simply consult a lawyer. As of now, it ranges from 1 rupees to 100 rupees. In Maharashtra, it is 100 rupees for making an affidavit. The Maharashtra government has from time to time waived off fee for making an affidavit for certain defined purposes. For example, the domicile certificate, nationality, caste, or income proof. For notarization of affidavit, the notarial fee is prescribed as per the notarial rules. The notaries may also charge a travelling allowance. Kindly note, these are the fees prescribed as per the notary's rules. In case of judicial affidavits, no court fee or other stamp is required for making an affidavit which is to be immediately used for the purpose of filing in the court or such other purpose before any court. So what is the basic format and what are the contents of an affidavit? Firstly, you have the title which mentions the word affidavit. If you want to be more specific, you can say affidavit for change of name, etc. Second, you start introducing yourself by stating your full name, your age, occupation, and address. Third, you mention your facts. These facts are stated in the first person. Basically, in the form I say that, or I affirm that, or I am informed that. So, what kind of facts are to be included? Firstly, about the subject matter of your affidavit. You state why you are making this affidavit. The second category of facts can be those which are based upon your information. You must disclose the source of your information and you must be able to prove such information. You may also state the facts based on your belief. But remember, facts based on belief are not admissible in evidence. Hearsay, basically information that you have heard from some other person and it is not based on your personal knowledge, must not be included in an affidavit. You must also not include argumentative matter in your affidavit. The statements of facts made in an affidavit should be divided into paragraphs and each paragraph must be numbered consecutively. Each such paragraph must be confined to a distinct portion of the subject. All interlineations, alterations, and erasures made in an affidavit should be initialed by the person making an affidavit and it should be affirmed before the attesting officer. After the facts have been completed, the deponent signs the affidavit. He is also known as the Shapatkarta.
Before signing an affidavit, read and understand the contents very carefully, as you shall be held liable for the same. Also, do not leave unnecessary spaces to ensure that no one misuses your affidavit. Wherever possible, use your thumb impression along with your signature. Every page of the affidavit shall be signed by the deponent and shall be initialed by the attesting officer. Every affidavit should be signed or marked and verified at foot by the deponent and attested by the court, magistrate, or any other officer administering oath or affirmation. The last part of an affidavit is its verification clause, where the affiant or the deponent confirms that the statement made by him in the affidavit are true and correct as per his knowledge or belief and nothing material has been concealed therefrom. The essence of verification is to test the genuineness and authenticity of the document, to place a safe reliance thereon, and to attach a responsibility upon the deponent. Now, do you need any witnesses in affidavit? Not really. The attesting officer essentially acts as a witness to the execution of affidavit and there is no legal requirement for additional witnesses. However, certain institutions make it imperative to have witnesses as a matter of convenience.
Now that we have made an affidavit, let's understand what attestation means and how it is to be done. Attestation is the act of attending the execution of a document and bearing witness to its authenticity by signing one's name to it to affirm that it is genuine. Attestation can be done by the notary appointed under the Notaries Act 1952, or it can also be done by the Commissioner of Oaths appointed by the state under the Oaths Act. It can also be done by the magistrate of the respective area. Consular or embassy also has power to administer oath. In case of judicial affidavits filed under the Code of Civil Procedure, Section 139 of the CPC authorizes any court or magistrate or notary under the Notaries Act 1952, or any officer or person appointed by the High Court, or any officer appointed by any other court with the general or special authorization of the state government may attest an affidavit. As per the High Court rules of different states, the High Court has power to appoint oath commissioners or such other officers for attesting judicial affidavits. So, what are the basic duties of an attesting officer? The attesting officer has to identify the affiant or deponent. If such person cannot be identified by the authorized officer, then identification can be done by some other person, and the authorized officer shall, in such case, specify at the foot of the affidavit the name and description of the person by whom identification is made, as well as the time and place of identification and of the making of the affidavit. If it appears to the attesting officer that any person making the affidavit is ignorant of the language in which it is written, or is illiterate, or cannot fully understand the contents of the affidavit, then the attesting officer shall cause the affidavit to be read and explained to him in a language which both he and such court or magistrate or officer understands, either by doing so himself or causing another person to do so in his presence. When such a procedure is followed, the attesting officer shall certify in writing at the foot of the affidavit that it has been so read and explained, and the declarant seemed perfectly to understand the same at the time of making it. The attesting officer has to then administer oath or affirmation and ensure that the affiant or deponent signs the affidavit in his presence. Attesting officer has to certify at the foot of the affidavit the fact of making such affidavit before him, and shall enter the date, his proper designation, and put his full signature to such certificate, and shall, for the purpose of identification, mark date and initial every exhibit referred to in the affidavit. Attesting officer has to maintain registers as may be prescribed by law. Such registers can be produced before the courts to show whether a particular affidavit was sworn before him or not. We have already learnt about affidavits that are to be furnished within the country. If an affidavit is required to be submitted in a foreign country, if you need to present an affidavit in a country which is a signing member of the apostille section of the Hague Convention, you will need to have the affidavit apostilled for it to be valid in that country. So what is apostillation? Apostillation is basically a process where the document is verified by the Ministry of External Affairs and an apostille sticker is affixed to the document to authenticate it. India is a member of the Hague Convention, and an apostilled document is accepted in 105 countries as on date. So there is no need to get it done separately for different countries. So now what if your affidavit is to be submitted in a country where apostille is not accepted? Yes, there are countries. So in that case, you will have to go for normal attestation, which is to be done at the regional authenticating centers. For more details on attestation and apostillation of documents for foreign use, visit the official website of Ministry of External Affairs.
Whether affidavit is evidence? Section 1 and Section 3 of Evidence Act together makes it clear that affidavit is not regarded as evidence under the Act, but can be used as evidence only if for sufficient reason, court passed an order under Order 19, Rule 1 and 2 of CPC. Affidavits, though, are not included in Section 3 of the Act. Same can be used as evidence if law specifically permits certain matters to be proved by affidavit.
Let's say you didn't listen to us and you filed an incorrect affidavit. So what are the consequences? You have submitted an affidavit in evidence, and such an affidavit contains hearsay or argumentative matter. Now, the court may order you to pay cost. If such an affidavit does not sufficiently disclose how much of the statement is based upon your personal knowledge and how much of it is based upon belief or the grounds of belief, so as to enable the court to judge whether it would be sage to act on the deponent's belief, the court will refuse to rely upon it. So you simply wasted your money. The court may also redact, reject, strike off evidence if the court observes that unnecessary material is incorporated in an affidavit. Now let's come to another mistake. If you have not verified your affidavit properly, the court says slipshod verifications may lead to rejection of affidavits. You again waste your money. If the affidavit is not properly verified, then it may not be admissible in evidence. So what's the use of making an incorrect affidavit? Also note, if the prescribed fee is not paid, then the document is not admissible in evidence, and it may lead to the impounding of same by any public servant and be sent for stamp duty adjudication for payment of full duty, penalty, etc. Incorrect affidavits are one thing, but let's say you went to the another extreme to file a false affidavit. So what are the consequences of filing a false affidavit? If you have deliberately sworn false information and made frivolous statements to be true and correct, and have signed it, verified it, in order to mislead or deceive the court or any public servant or other person who was authorized to receive evidence of any fact, then you attract criminal offences chargeable under Chapter 11 titled False Evidence and Offences Against Public Justice, more particularly under Section 193, 199, 200, which means you gave or fabricated false evidence in any case or judicial proceedings. And this is punishable with 3 to 7 years of imprisonment, as the case may be, and also fine. If such a false affidavit is used as evidence with the intention to falsely implicate any person in any offense, and such person is convicted, then the consequences may be more severe. Remember, criminal contempt proceedings can also be initiated against you under Section 195 read with Section 340 of the CRPC. With this, we have covered the topic on affidavits, and we hope that you will take conscious effort to make correct affidavits and save your time and money, and also save yourselves from the consequences of incorrect affidavits or false affidavits.
If this video benefits you, please like, share, subscribe the channel and tap the bell icon. If you have any queries, please post it in the comment section. Thank you.